Hi guys, welcome to SUDEEPVERSE and I hope you people are all doing good. This is Decode Prelims previous year questions of UPSC and here we are doing the decoding of 2025 prelims paper. In the episode 1, we did from question number 1 to 25. In this episode, we are going to do from question number 26 to question number 50. Now understand that Decode Prelims PYQ is not just about knowledge, it is about trying to deduce the answers on those topics that comes beyond the scope of any books. So please make sure that you develop that skills and lines of thought that we discuss when we take every question and discuss in detail. So I hope you are ready guys. So let us start off with it. Let us start with question number 26 and go ahead and continue till question number 50. Please make sure that you are ready with the pen and the paper and make sure that you start writing down all the important principles and lines of thought that we discuss apart from the knowledge that you are obviously going to get while we are discussing these questions. So let us start off with the Decode Prelims PYQs episode 2 from question number 26 to 50. I hope you are ready. Let's start. Alright, let us look at the 26th question. Again, 26th question can be answered only with the help of common sense. You don't even have to know the concepts, but let us read it out. Consider the following statements. Statement 1 reads, the amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in subtropical and temperate areas than in equator and polar regions. Statement 2, subtropical and temperate areas have less dry winds. Okay. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct and statement 2 explains statement 1. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct but statement 2 does not explain statement 1. Statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is not correct. Statement 1 is not correct but statement 2 is correct. Okay. I hope this part you understand how the sequencing is done. Okay. Let us come back to this. I always tell you to get the clarity here and then go here. Don't get into this at all. Okay. So let us look at this. This again talks about basics, how well you know basics. Okay, so if you take the earth, you have the equator, you have the tropics, you have the temperate, and then you have the poles. Okay, the same thing goes here also. So you have the poles. Now the amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in the subtropics and temperate areas than in equatorial and polar regions. If they are given this statement, you have to answer why is this true, or you have to answer why is this false. First, you have to answer these two questions. Either if you're telling it is false, then why? If you're telling it is true, then why? Now, the moment I tell that this statement is true, I am telling that this statement is true, I am giving a reason. Look at this, you should always ask your mind why. So when your mind is going to answer that question called why, that means that you are not guessing, you are trying to apply logic. Okay, let us see. Now see, when I take the world or the earth, and if I say the amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in the subtropical and temperate areas than in equatorial and polar regions. Why in equatorial regions there is less dust particles is because you have rainfall throughout the year. So when you have rainfall throughout the year, that rain will bring all the dust particles back to the surface. Next, polar regions, you have cold, dense winds. So when you have cold and dense winds, these winds are obviously going to sink. When these winds are going to sink, the dust particles are not going to stay in the atmosphere, they are going to come down. So, with that logic, I can say that this particular part is true. Okay, now let us come here. Subtropical and temperate areas have less dry winds. The focus here is where you have to focus. Does it have less dry winds or more dry winds? Because when the winds go, they will push up the dust particles in the atmosphere. So, if this is true, then this cannot be true. So here itself you have come to the conclusion that these two statements cannot happen at all. These two statements are not true. I hope you are understanding this because both are mutually exclusive in nature. They are not making sense. Remember the principle of consistency? They are not making any sense. So here it is not less. It has more winds. Okay. So this statement is false. So what will be the answer? The answer is statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is not correct. Just by applying logic. How will you apply logic? You will always apply logic because whenever you take a test and whenever you come to the conclusion that this is the correct answer or this is the wrong answer or this is true and this is false, you should always ask this question of why. If your mind can tell you the reason why, that means you have a logic in your mind. If your mind goes blank when you ask why, that means you are guessing. So this is one thing that you should always keep in your mind. Overall, the answer here is C. Alright guys, let us move on to the next question. This question is actually a little challenging because you should have a very good clarity about specific heat of land and water. You should also have the idea about isotherms. So if you don't have an idea, we will explain and we will try to understand. But if you have a good conceptual clarity of these two concepts, you can easily answer this. Okay. Now let us see this. Let us read out the question first. Consider the following statements. Statement 1 reads, in January, in the northern hemisphere, the isotherms, see, these are the two important keywords. In January, in the northern hemisphere, the isotherms bend equatorward while crossing the land masses and poleward while crossing the oceans. Okay, let us come to statement 2. In January, the air over the oceans is warmer than over the land masses in the northern hemisphere. Okay, now, which of the above following statement is correct in respect to the above statements? Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct and statement 2 explains statement 1. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, but statement 2 does not explain statement 1. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is not correct. Statement 1 is not correct, but statement 2 is correct. Okay, now, you can first, let us say that first statement is too complicated. Let us look at the second statement. Second statement is too complicated. Let us look at the first statement. It is completely your discretion, whichever statement you want to go first. It is okay. Alright, that is fine. But overall, you should make sure that what is the correlation between these two. And before you go here, try to understand the correlation here itself. In two statements, it is okay. Usually, what we do is we actually go from here to here, or you can go from here to there, wherever you can go. But whenever there is three statements, that is where you should not come this side. You should always make sure that the correlation is done between them and then go here. Okay. Anyways, let us look at this. See, first try to understand what is an isotherm. What is an isotherm? When I say isotherm, iso means same and therm means temperature. Okay. So basically, it is a line joining all the places having the same temperature at sea level. This is very, very important. So isotherms are always drawn at sea level. So it is a line joining all the places having the same temperature at the sea level. So this is what is isotherms. The next is, you know this concept called differential heating of land and water. Differential heating of land and water. Okay. Why there is differential heating of land and water? Assume that this is a coastline. This side is oceans and this side is land. Let us say that there is sun that is hitting the coast. So there is land this side and oceans this side. Though the sun is hitting both the oceans and the land, it is always the land that gets heated up faster. Whereas this gets heated up slow. Why does oceans get heated up slow? Is because the specific heat of water is high. What do you mean by specific heat of water is high? It means if I take the temperature of land as T1, if I take the temperature of water as T2, to increase T1 plus 1, I would need, let us say, X energy. To increase T2 plus 1, I would need Y energy. Y will always be greater than X. The energy needed to increase the temperature of water by 1 degree will always be more than the energy needed to increase the temperature of land by 1 degree. That extra energy required shows that the specific heat of water is always high. That is why when the sun is directly hitting both the oceans and the land will always get heated up faster compared to the oceans. The vice versa is also true. When the oceans and land during the night time, let us say during the night time, in the night time we know that the oceans and the land both are losing the heat, terrestrial radiation. Which will lose the heat faster? It is the land. The land will lose the heat faster. Okay. So basically the land will get heated up faster also. The land will get cooled down faster also. Cooled down faster also. Okay. So this logic is very, very important. Now understand two things here. They have told January and they have told northern hemisphere. When you have studied seasons, you know that in the seasons, in the northern hemisphere in the month of January, you will have winter season. We have winter season in January. Okay. Alright. Now let us come to northern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, let us understand that this is the coastline. If this is the coastline and this is land and this is water, we know that in the northern hemisphere it is winter season. Land will get cooled up faster compared to the oceans. So let us say that if this is, assume that this is, let us say, T2 and this is T1. Okay, T2 will be less than T1. Okay, I hope you are understanding this. That is, water will have higher temperature compared to the land because land has got cooled down faster. Now, let us say in January in the northern hemisphere, the isotherms bend equatorward while crossing the land masses and poleward while crossing the oceans. Let us see this. First, I will go from the land to the oceans. Let us say that I am drawing a line of 22 degrees isotherm. 22 degrees Celsius isotherm. So I'm going like this, I'm going like this, I'm going like this. This is the land. Now, in the oceans, exactly in a straight line, if in the oceans in the same latitude, if you go straight, you will not find 22 degrees, you will actually find 24 degrees. Why? Because I told you, land is more cooler than the oceans. So at the same latitude, if you find 22 degrees in the land is much more colder compared to the oceans. So obviously in the oceans there should be much higher temperature. So when there is much higher temperature, if you have to find cool temperature, you should always go near the poles. If you want to find high temperature, you should always go near the equator. Now I want to find 22 degrees, but I am looking at 24 degrees. But I want a cooler temperature. Because I want a cooler temperature, I will bend towards the poles. Because as I go near the poles, see, this is where I can find the 22 degrees. So this isotherm that came from the land in the January month in the northern hemisphere will go polewards. Let us go back and confirm. In January in the northern hemisphere, the isotherms bend equatorwards while crossing the land masses, okay, and poleward while crossing the oceans. Look at this. As they go like this, they are moving polewards as they cross the oceans. Okay. Now let us come back and do the reverse of it. Let us say that from here, let us say I am marking 24 degrees. Now, as I come towards the land, exactly in the same latitude in the land is much more colder. When the land is much more colder, if it is 24 degrees in the oceans, at that exact parallel, at that exact latitude over the land, you will have 22 degrees. But I want 24 degrees. So, when I cross over the land, I need much higher temperature. Higher temperature is always found near the equator. So, look at this, isotherm will bend towards the equator. When the isotherm bends towards the equator, this is where 24 degrees is. So, the isotherms on crossing the land masses will turn towards the equator. The isotherms on crossing the oceans will turn towards the poles. So, in January, in the northern hemisphere, the isotherms bend equatorward while crossing the land masses and poleward while crossing the oceans. Look at this. This statement is correct. Okay. Why is this entire thing happening? Is because of this only. In the January, the air over the oceans are warmer. Look at this. The air over the oceans. This is the original air. The air over the oceans. T1 is always greater than T2. This is the air over oceans. And this is the air over land. Now look at this. In January, the air over the oceans is warmer than that over the land masses in the northern hemisphere. T1 is greater than T2. Because T1 is greater than T2, that is why this is happening. And because statement 2 is explaining what is statement 1, both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 exactly explains statement 1. So, answer for the 27th question is A. I hope you understood this. Yes, this question requires you to have very good conceptual clarity. It is not difficult. If you know this concept of specific heat and if you know the concept of isotherms, you can easily get to the answer. That is why you should have conceptual clarity in all the subjects. Okay, so this is the 27th question. The answer is A. Alright guys, let us look at this question. Again, they are checking whether you know the difference between porosity and permeability. Okay, if you know the concepts, you will be able to answer the question very easily. Let us look at the question first. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. In the context of effect of water on the rocks, chalk is known as very permeable rock, whereas clay is known as quiet and impermeable or least permeable rock. Okay, look at this. One is chalk, another is clay. Okay, one they are telling that it is very permeable, another they are telling that clay is known as quiet and impermeable or least permeable rock. Okay, read the language properly. Okay, all right. This is the first statement. The second statement tells chalk is porous and hence can absorb water. Okay. Third statement say clay is not at all porous. Third statement is clay is not at all porous. One, your mind should always be cautious that the third statement is a little extreme. Extreme statements will not always be wrong. Please don't go for the trick. But whenever there is some extreme statements, we should be more cautious. Okay. Now, which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct and both of them explain statement 1. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct and that explains statement 1. Neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay. Usually this will not be the answer, but that is not a trick. It is a little difficult to frame it, so be a little careful. But always students will get confused with this. Okay. Read them carefully. Okay, both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Okay, that is, these two are correct individually, but only one is explaining statement 1. Only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Okay, in both the scenario, only one is explaining statement 1. But in this scenario, both the 2 and 3 statement are correct. In this, only one is correct. So they are very close. In the exam-like conditions, when you are running out of time, don't make that mistake. That is why don't bring this before you get clarity in this. Okay, try to get clarity here. Now, what is porosity? Okay, porosity is the pore spaces. When I say pore spaces, these are empty gaps present within the grains of the rock. Within the grains of the rock, whatever empty gaps are there, that is what is known as pore spaces. The greater the pore spaces, the higher the porosity. Okay, so that is what it means. Second, what is permeability? Permeability, okay, is the movement of fluids. That means gases plus water, the movement of fluids in these pore spaces. Pore spaces. So, for example, if I take this rock, let us say this rock is made up of a lot of grains like this. Now, if this rock is made up of a lot of grains like this, can you see a lot of empty spaces here? That empty spaces are what are known as pore spaces. Look at this. This is pore space. Okay. Now, when there is a lot of pore space, it allows the fluids to move like this. When the fluids move along the pore spaces, then we say that it has high permeability. So, you understood what is pore space and what is permeability. Now, we know that chalk as well as clay, okay, both are grains. They are just of different sizes. They are nothing but sedimentary grains. This chalk and clay both are sedimentary grains. Okay. Now, let us say that chalk is, in this context of effect of water on rocks, chalk is known as very permeable rock. Okay. Why? Because when you add water on the chalk, you know that it absorbs the water very well. So, where is that water going? It is easily going inside the pore spaces and flowing inside the pore spaces. So, it is highly permeable. Next, whereas clay is known as quite an impermeable or least permeable rock. Quite an impermeable or least permeable means that particular clay, if I hold a clay and if I drop water on that, the water is not seeping in. The water is there itself. It is not seeping in. Why is it not seeping in? Is because permeability is low. I am not talking about porosity. Permeability is low. Okay. Now look at this. Alright, let's come to this point. Chalk is porous and hence can absorb water. Okay, fine. Chalk is porous and hence can absorb water because porosity decides the permeability. Okay. Next, clay is not at all porous. Now look at this. Come to this. Here when they say clay is known as quite an impermeable or least permeable rock. Look at this. Here they are making sense. Here they are going extreme. That should show the inconsistency. Look at this. Here they are telling clay is quite an impermeable or least permeable. They should have told here clay is impermeable. Why are they using this, prefix of least or quite and impermeable? They are using least or quite impermeable because there are pore spaces. The pore spaces are very highly interlocked and it does not allow the easy absorption of water or easy movement of water, but you cannot say that there are no pore spaces at all. Because the pore spaces are highly interlocked, permeability is low. It is not that there is no pore spaces at all. The pore spaces are very, very fine. They are very, very, very small. That is why they don't allow the permeability of water. So I hope you understood this. But even though if you don't have that knowledge also, look at the way they have told. Quite an impermeable or least permeable here. Clay is not at all porous. Now, here their permeability they are talking, here porosity they are talking, sir. That's why I could not relate. That is where your understanding of what is porosity and permeability becomes very important. At the end of the day, this permeability is decided by this porosity. Okay. If it is not at all porous, then it is not at all permeable. It is completely impermeable. I hope you are understanding this. So, if they are telling quite an impermeable or least permeable, that means that pore spaces should be there. You cannot say that it is not at all porous. So, that is how we can know that this particular statement is wrong. So, the answer is, look at this, in these two statements, this is correct and this is wrong, and only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. So, this actually is explaining statement 1, that is, chalk is known as a very permeable rock. So, that part, this particular statement is explaining. So, the answer here is C. I hope you are understanding this. Though the concept is very simple, in that rush, you will make a mistake of marking it as C or B. So I hope that you understood the concept, as well as I hope you understood one of the skills is not to be in a hurry, especially when you are marking the options in the 3 statement questions. Okay, so this completes the 28th question. Let us move on to the next one. Alright guys, let us look at this question. One interesting part about this question is open to multiple interpretations. That is why whenever you check your answer keys from any coaching institute, and when you are finally seeing your answer keys, or when you are finally seeing your marks of your prelims that UPSC releases, there will always be some difference. The main reason is because there will be few questions where there is subjective interpretation of how we will interpret the question, and on the basis of that the answer changes. So this is one such example. So look at this. That is why there will always be some changes or some digression whenever we come to the answer keys of a coaching institute compared to the UPSC answer keys. Okay, let us look at this question. Let me read out the question first. Consider the following statements. Without the atmosphere, temperature would be well below freezing point everywhere on the Earth's surface. This is the statement 1. Next, heat absorbed and trapped by the atmosphere maintains our planet's average temperature. This is statement 2. Atmosphere's gases like carbon dioxide are particularly good in absorbing and trapping radiation. Okay. Now, which of the following statements given above are correct? 1 and 3, 1 and 2 only, 1, 2 and 3, 2 and 3 only. Okay. Now, look at this. If I take the Earth, you have the atmosphere. Now, atmosphere is nothing but blanket of gases. Blanket of gases. Okay. We have the nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen forms 78%, oxygen forms 21%. The remaining is 1%, and in that 1% you have argon, you have carbon dioxide, and then you have neon. But this carbon dioxide is very, very crucial for the Earth, is because this carbon dioxide traps the outgoing terrestrial radiation. Outgoing terrestrial radiation. Because it traps the outgoing terrestrial radiation, it helps keeps the Earth warm. It helps keeps the Earth warm. But that is what is now affecting us in the form of climate change. When we are adding man-made emissions, when we are adding man-made emissions of CO2, now this is trapping more heat. This is trapping more heat. When it is trapping more heat, automatically, now it is not helping. It is creating what you call as global warming. So this is the basic concept that everyone will know. So with that, come to this, the third statement. Look at this. Atmospheric gases like carbon dioxide are particularly good at absorbing and trapping radiation. This is correct. 100% correct. So you have no issues with that. We know the statement 3 is 100% correct. Okay. Now go to this. Heat absorbed and trapped by the atmosphere maintains our planet's average temperature. Yes or no? Heat absorbed and trapped by the atmosphere maintains our planet's average temperature. Very generic it is. It is not talking about any specificity. So this also should be correct. So you understood that 2 and 3 should definitely be correct. So this is also not there. So we are now having C and D, and in that C and D, the one statement that is now going to test you is statement 1. Now look at this. Without the atmosphere, temperature would be well below freezing point everywhere on the Earth's surface. Okay. Now there are 2 ways to look at it. Is it everywhere? Is it all the time? Now, a person will think, is it everywhere and all the time? They may say that it is not true. A person who will think that the statement is very generic, it is just telling you that if you remove the atmosphere, this is a consequence that is going to happen, will say that the statement is correct. Now look at this. This is what is called multiple interpretations. Whenever there is multiple interpretations, the answers can emerge in either of the ways on which path of interpretation that you are going to take. So, when you come across such questions, it is okay. Don't have analysis, or don't try to overthink. Don't try to think what UPSC's interpretation is. What is your subject wisdom telling you? If your subject wisdom tells you that without the atmosphere, temperature would be well below freezing point everywhere on the Earth's surface, if you feel that overall the consequence is going to end up like this, it is fine. You can go ahead and tell it is correct. But let us say that a person is now reading between the lines and telling, without the atmosphere, temperature would be well below freezing point everywhere on the Earth's surface. They are telling everywhere. It need not be true, because during the daytimes, it need not be that everywhere it's well below freezing point. There can be some points in the Earth's surface during the daytime where the temperature will go above the freezing point. So that is also a way of looking at it. So that person will tell it is wrong. Okay. But I am a person who will not overlook so much or overanalyze so much. I feel, again, I may not be correct. I may not, exactly understand how the UPSC will interpret. I'm just giving you my way of telling you that there can be multiple interpretations. But I'm just going to take this as a generic statement which says that if you remove the atmosphere, automatically the earth will have temperatures that are very low. So if you take that also as a statement, then I'm going to take that it is one of the consequences of removing the atmosphere. So the answer should automatically become 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So the here answer is 1, 2 and 3. Okay. I hope you got this. Again, some answer keys may tell you that it is 2 and 3 also. It is okay. Such questions will be there. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Such questions will always be there, and that's why you are going to see different answer keys having different solutions. So don't worry about it. So according to my take, the answer is C, 1, 2 and 3, all the 3 statements are correct. So this is what is the 29th question. Alright guys, let us look at this question now. This question comes under the umbrella of government programs, and whenever you are studying government programs, don't make it too boring. When you study a government program, understand the main purpose, understand the beneficiaries, and more importantly, understand the implementing body. This is all you have to know. Okay, what is the purpose or objective? Who are the beneficiaries and who is the implementing body? So overall, these are the 3 things that you should always know in a program. Don't worry about the other nitty-gritties, but if you know about this, broadly you will be able to answer more or less the questions that comes in government programs. Okay, let us read out the question first. Consider the following statements about Rashtriya Gokul mission. Okay, the first statement is, it is important for the upliftment of rural poor as majority of low producing indigenous animals are with small and marginal farmers and landless laborers. Okay, let us go to the next one. It was initiated to promote indigenous cattle and buffalo rearing and conservation in a scientific and holistic manner. Okay, which of the statements given are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, and neither 1 nor 2. Okay, now if you read and if you have solved a lot of questions, you know that this statement is usually wrong just by understanding the language. Look at the language. The language itself shows that more or less the statement is very generic and it is always correct. So you will always come across a lot of statements in your prelims exam. Just by knowing the language of that particular statement, you will know that it is correct. Okay, there is nothing here that can be manipulated to go wrong. Look at this. It is important for the upliftment of the rural poor as majority of the low producing indigenous animals are with small and marginal farmers and landless laborers. Yes, majority of them are there with them. Why? Because that is their main source of income. So there is nothing wrong with that. Next, it was initiated to promote indigenous cattle and buffalo rearing. Look at this. This is where many will get confused. That is why I told, whenever you take the government programs, you should always know the purpose. So when you know the purpose, automatically you will get the answer to this. Okay. So one is the purpose. The second is the beneficiaries. Look at this. The beneficiaries are them. Okay. And the third is automatically the implementing body. Here the implementing body is very easy. Sometimes the implementing body will be a little tricky. That's why you should know the implementing body. Okay. For example, the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. We had discussed it in the last episode, or we had discussed it in the other 2025 questions. So who implements it? Ministry of Finance. So that is how you should know this. So always know the implementing body or the implementing ministry. Anyways, so overall, when you take the government programs, this is the focus. But this is where a student will get confused. Whether is it only indigenous cattle or is it both indigenous cattle and buffalo? The right answer is, if you know the purpose, it is both indigenous cattle and buffalo. So the answer, very direct question it is. The answer is both 1 and 2. Alright, government programs, especially on that particular year, whatever the government has implemented or announced or made changes is very, very important. So always have the high in your newspapers to know what are the programs that are making the news on the particular year. Okay, so this completes the question of 30. Alright guys, let us look at this question now. Again, this question is very, very interesting. Take a look at it. Now, consider the following statements. Statement 1. Studies indicate carbon dioxide emissions from cement industry account for more than 5% of global emissions. Okay. Statement 2 says silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement. The next is statement 3. Limestone is converted into lime during clinker production for cement manufacturing. Okay. Now look at this. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Neither statement 2 or statement 3 is correct. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to tell you is, in these 3 statements, when they are giving such type of an option, we know that in this all these 4 options, we already assume the statement 1 is correct. Yes or no? Because nowhere they are telling that statement 1 can be wrong. Statement 1 is correct everywhere. They are telling, they are only interested in statement 2 and statement 3 explaining them being correct. One of the statement being correct and explaining it, or all the 3 being wrong, or all the 2 being correct and explaining it. So they are not worried about statement 1 is correct. Statement 1 is assumed to be correct. So don't spend too much time on this. This is definitely correct. Your main job is whether this is explaining this or this is explaining this. That is all you have to do. Okay. That is why see both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct and both of them are explaining statement 1. This is one you have to see. Statement 1 is correct only then. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. So statement 1 is correct there also. Only one of the statement 2 and statement 3 is correct and that explains statement 1. Look at this. Even that is also assuming the statement 1 is correct. And the last one is neither statement 2 or statement 3 is correct. That is both are wrong. Again, in all the 4 options, statement 1 is always correct. So don't spend too much time on thinking that is statement 1 correct or wrong. Okay. Now, look at this. Basically, what they are trying to tell is cement manufacturing is going to emit carbon dioxide. So, this emission of carbon dioxide, is it happening because of this and this both? Okay. Now look, silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement. Silica bearing clay, it is just like adding sand to the limestone. When you are adding sand to the limestone in order to create cement, will there be CO2 emissions? Mixed is not a chemical process, it is a physical process. When physically you are mixing something, emissions, yes, very minute level it will be there, but overall if you take this as a generic statement, I would not say that emissions will happen. Okay, but limestone is converted into lime. Now this involves a chemical process. There is a chemical reaction that happens. When chemical reaction that happens during the clinker production, cement manufacturing is done. Obviously when chemical reaction happens, obviously there should be emission here. There is very little emission or no emission here. So I would not tell no. Okay. So that is why even though you don't know or you know, just by understanding this mixed and just by understanding this conversion, you can just take a call that conversion usually happens because of a chemical process and there are high probability that the emissions can happen. Here mixing is just a physical process and when that physical process happens there is very less probability that emissions can happen, and on that basis I can say in both the statements, okay, both the statements are true, but in both the statements are true, only one is explaining the statement 1. So which is it? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. So the answer here is B. Again, while marking the answer, be very careful. Okay. I hope you understood this. In the 3 statement questions, don't keep sitting and thinking about statement 1. Okay. When they give options like this, statement 1 is assumed to be true. All you have to do is sit and think how you can correlate statement 2 and statement 3 to statement 1. I hope you understood this. A very important learning. I hope you have made a note on this. So this completes question number 31. Alright guys, now let us read out the next question, and that is on climate change. Look at this. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. At the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference COP28, India refrained from signing the Declaration on Climate and Health. This is statement 1. Statement 2. The COP28 Declaration on Climate and Health is a binding declaration and is, if signed, becomes mandatory to decarbonize the health sector. Next, statement 3. If India's health sector is decarbonized, the resilience of its healthcare system may be compromised. Okay. Which one of the following statement is correct with respect to the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct and both of them explain statement 1. So statement 1 is assumed to be correct. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct but only one of them explains statement 1. So again statement 1 is assumed to be correct. Only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct and that explains statement 1. Again statement 1 is assumed to be correct. Neither statement 1, 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Again statement 1 is assumed to be correct. So this is assumed to be correct only. So you don't worry about it. Okay. Take this first statement and then use that first statement itself as a clue. That means if this statement is right, then obviously India has refrained from not signing it. If India has refrained from not signing it, you should know why. Okay. But let us see. Now for statement 1 is anyway true. Look at this. COP28 Declaration of Climate and Health is a binding declaration and if signed it becomes mandatory to decarbonize health sector. Whenever such declarations happen in a climate summit, such declarations are never binding. They will always be voluntary. Because if they are binding, no one will sign the declaration at all. The declaration becomes useless because no one wants to have that mandatory condition to implement it. They always need the flexibility. So in climate summits, whatever declaration happens, it is always voluntary. It is always not binding. So with that, you know that statement 2 is usually or mostly wrong. Okay. So this becomes wrong. Now come to this. If India's health sector is decarbonized, the resilience of its healthcare system may be compromised. If we try to decarbonize much faster, let us say that we don't have the technology transfer, but we are trying to decarbonize it. If we decarbonize more faster than expected, then there are chances that our healthcare may be compromised. Yes or no? The resilience may be compromised. It makes sense. So there are very high probability that this statement is correct. Alright. Now this particular statement is why they are not signed that particular COP28 declaration. Okay, COP28, the declaration on climate and health. Okay, so overall, with that principle of probability, you can say that only one of the statement 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. I hope you understood this. But many institutes have also given neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct, telling that the decarbonization, how can it reduce the resilience, it will improve the resilience. It is not like that. You have to read in the context. When you try to decarbonize more faster in any sector, then you will start suffering what you call as transitional risks. The transitional risks is what here they are talking about. Okay. So overall, this statement that says that in the health sector, if we try to decarbonize much faster, then automatically it will affect the health sector. If you are not ready and if you are trying to decarbonize even before that, then automatically it will affect. Only with that knowledge, you can say that this particular statement is correct. So the answer for this, only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Okay. So I hope by understanding logic or by using logic and common sense, you can come to the conclusion that this answer is correct. But overall, a sincere candidate who's preparing for the exam will always know that climate change is a recurring theme in UPSC Prelims. There will always be one question on climate change, and if there is any COP, for example, if you are writing this time, COP 30 becomes very, very important. You should understand COP 30 in and out. You cannot say that, sir, I had only studied this much and they had asked that much. You should know in and out about COP 30. So when you know that one thing is a recurring theme, it becomes very, very important responsibility upon you to make sure that you go and prepare a little bit in depth on that recurring themes. Okay. So that is a learning that you have to take away. Alright. So this completes the 32nd question. Alright guys, now let us look at the next question. Again, this question can be answered just with the help of common sense. Look at this. Let me read out the question first. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Scientific studies suggest that a shift is taking place in the Earth's rotation and axis. Statement 2. Solar flares and associated coronal mass ejections bombarded the Earth's outermost atmosphere with tremendous amount of energy. Look at this. Earth's outermost atmosphere. Statement 3. As the Earth's polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator. Okay. Which one of the following is correct with respect to the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. So statement 1 is assumed to be true. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. So statement 1 is assumed to be true. Only one of the statements 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. And the last is neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay. So don't sit and think about statement 1. Statement 1 is definitely correct. You just have to make sure that which one is more validating the first statement. Okay. Now understand that if you take the Earth, okay, if this is the axis, the Earth is tilted on its axis by 23.5 degrees. So I hope you know that the Earth is tilted by 23.5 degrees. When they say the Earth is tilted on its plane, this is the axis and this is the plane. The Earth is tilted on its plane by 66.5 degrees. So this is one basic concept that you should understand. So basically what they are trying to tell is this tilt is changing or shifting a little bit, and the rotation is also affected a little bit. And why is this happening? Why is that shifting taking place? So you have to find the answer. Now look at this. Solar flares and coronal mass ejections, that is CMEs. You would have heard these terms when you have studied Aditya L1 mission or solar Parker mission, Parker orbiter mission. So all these missions, when you have read, you have learned about the solar flares and coronal mass ejections. Anyways, again understand that the solar flares and coronal mass ejections are not recent phenomena. They have been happening from the time the Earth is there, or from the time the Earth was formed. So if these were actually impacting this should have been happening from very long back. But scientists' studies suggest that the shift is taking place. It is taking place means it is happening very recently, or it is taking place now. It was not happening before. So statement 1 tells us that something happening very recently, but this are something that was happening from the time the Earth was formed. So there is inconsistency. There is inconsistency when you see statement 2 to statement 3. So statement 2 is wrong. Okay. Also, this coronal mass ejections and solar flares, they mainly affect the ionosphere. They are mainly, stopped at the magnetosphere. So at the outermost atmosphere, they definitely affect. So this statement as such, solar flares and associated coronal mass ejections bombarded the Earth's outermost atmosphere with tremendous amount of energy. This statement in itself is correct. There is nothing wrong with this. But this is not explaining this. That is why you should be very, very careful. Look at this. They are going to play around with these two statements. Okay. So this is usually correct. Okay, but it is not explaining this. Now come to this. As the Earth's polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator. Obviously, when if this is the Earth, the poles mainly have the glaciers. If all this water that starts melting, obviously that water will start going towards the equator. When the water starts going towards the equator, the mass gets redistributed. When the mass gets redistributed, what happens? When the mass gets redistributed, automatically there should be some slight shift. That shift can happen in the rotation of the axis. So, because of the redistribution of the mass, when the water will start going towards the equator, automatically this makes sense to this. And you also know that this is a consequence of global warming. Global warming is a recent phenomena. So, because of the recent phenomena, that is why we are seeing this shift happening. Even that is how you can correlate. So, if you take these two, both the statements are correct, but only one statement explains the cause of statement 1. So, be very, very careful. Which one are you going to mark? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. So, this is what is correct. So, I hope you understood how to deduce the answer by the help of common sense. So, this completes the 33rd question. Alright guys, now let us look at the next question. Again, the question comes from climate change, and hence climate change is a recurring theme, and hence it becomes very, very important for you to develop depth in the recurring themes. So, how to develop that recurring themes, a list of recurring themes is when you go back to the last 10 years and when you see that on particular themes, they are asking the question again and again and again, then automatically you will come to the conclusion that these are recurring themes. Questions will definitely come on that, and hence I have to build a little depth. Okay, let us read out the question first. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change is frequently discussed in global discussions on sustainable development and climate change. Okay, so this is statement 1. Statement 2. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change sets out the principles of carbon market. Okay, statement 3. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change intends to promote inter-country non-market strategies to reach their climate targets. Which one of the following is correct with respect to the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. So, statement 1 is considered correct. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Again, statement 1 is correct. Only one of the statements 2 and statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Okay. Neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay. So, if you take these 4, now look at this. By default, you know that this particular statement is correct. Read this and see if you can take and identify the hint from this and see if you can apply it here. Look at this. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change is frequently discussed in the global discussions on sustainable development and climate change. Okay. Alright. It is frequently discussed in global discussions on sustainable development and climate change. Now look at this. Come to statement 2. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change sets out the principles of carbon market. Okay. It is inconsistent. There is nothing called inconsistency here. Okay. They are telling that Article 6 sets out the principles. Principles is very, very broad term. There can be some principles that are there in Article 6 that talks about carbon market. I am assuming to tell you, I am assuming that I don't know Article 6, but still I am able to deduce the answer. On that pretext I am trying to tell you. Otherwise I will explain what is Article 6 very easily. Now look at this. The next statement 3. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change intends to promote inter-country non-market strategies to reach their climate targets. There is nothing wrong in this particular thing. It intends to. Okay. Again, intends. That intention becomes implicit. So, it mostly by the principle of probability it will be correct. Okay. So, by applying the principle of consistency and probability, we can say that both the statements are explaining Article 6. So, with that we can say both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. So, that is how you can go ahead and get to that answer. But overall, as a UPSC aspirant who is preparing sincerely and very seriously, you should know about climate change, and more or less you should know about Paris Agreement. And obviously, because it's a recurring theme, you should know in depth about this Article 6. Okay, in Article 6, 3 important subclauses are very, very important. You have 6.2, you have 6.4, and you have 6.8. 6.2 is cooperative approach. Cooperative approach, where two countries can cooperate and they can have internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. Internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. These are what are known as ITMOs. Okay, this is one way of achieving. See, at the end of the day, we are doing all this to achieve what? Nationally determined contributions. We have to achieve nationally determined contributions. The nationally determined contributions can be achieved with the help of these three means. Okay, this is 6.2. That is, I can achieve the NDCs using ITMOs, that is internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. Next, 6.4 basically talking about crediting mechanism. It talks about crediting mechanism. Crediting mechanism, the very well known is the carbon markets, carbon credit markets. Okay, so this is crediting mechanism. 6.8 is what is known as non-market approaches. These are known as non-market approaches. So what are non-market approaches? Non-market approaches means technology transfer, it means capacity building. Okay, all these are non-market approaches. Okay, so overall, these are the three important sub-clauses of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. So, coming from the angle of a serious aspirant who identifies the recurring themes and who has prepared in depth about that recurring theme, you should have this idea. But overall, this is the answer to this particular question. I have told the answer with the help of common sense, but that should not be the case, especially in terms of recurring themes. So, this completes the question number 34. Alright guys, let us look at this question. Always such questions that appear very simple are the ones that are very difficult. Okay, know this. Okay, though it is appearing like just one line, it is actually very difficult to get the answer. Okay, now look at this. Which one of the following launched Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and the Pacific? Alright, now look at this. The Asia Development Bank, the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the New Development Bank, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Okay, now whatever common sense I can use or whatever lines of thought I can use, I will not be able to eliminate everything and come to the answer. But can I use some type of a logic? Yes, definitely you can use some type of a logic. For example, IBRD is a World Bank. I mean, it is part of the World Bank and it basically gives loans to low income countries in order to help them in development. Okay, so there is very less chances that they are going to focus on financing natural solution or nature solutions. Okay, nature solutions basically talks about mitigating climate change or helping reduce biodiversity loss. They are mainly concerned about trying to alleviate poverty. Okay, so this is very unlikely that it is going to sponsor. With that I can say Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank mainly focuses on the infrastructure and not on nature solutions. On that basis I can also eliminate this. Again, it is far-fetched. I'm not telling that this is exactly how I will put. I'm trying to apply some type of logic to come closer to the answer. Okay. Either ways, you will come and stand in A and C. This is where you get confused of what can happen. Asia Development Bank and New Development Bank. Okay. You can tell that you can come to the conclusion by applying a logic that New Development Bank is formed by BRICS. BRICS are more closer to the tropical countries. So tropical countries, the nature solutions are important, and hence you can come to that. But that is again going to go wrong, unfortunately. But here the answer is the Asian Development Bank. Okay. Now, but why have I explained so much? I could have just told the answer is this. It is pretty direct. It is very difficult. You cannot answer, and I could have gone to the next one. I have just taught you the lines of thought. Whenever you go wrong, let us say that whenever you went wrong, and you told me that, sir, the reason I went wrong is my logic went wrong. That is, I applied a logic, but that logic did not work. Why did that logic did not work? Because from this side, the logic was different. Because the logic applied by UPSC answer keys or UPSC questions was different. My logic did not work and hence I went wrong. This is completely fine. But what is very important is your ability to apply the logic. This is a skill. Now, out of let us say 10 questions, there can be 1 or 2 questions that can go wrong like this, but 7 questions, your logic will always go correct. So, that ability of you to apply the logic is very important, and so always make sure that you develop your lines of thought. Whenever you come to the, what is lines of thought? Whenever you come to the answer, you should always tell why. You should always answer why. If you are able to answer why, that means you have a very good lines of thought. I hope you got this. So the answer here for the 35th question is the Asian Development Bank. That is A. Let us move on to the next one. Alright guys, now let us look at the next question. Again, the next question is on emerging technology, and this emerging technology is a recurring theme. I have already told you, whenever there is a recurring theme, you have to build some depth on it. you have to make a list of all the recurring themes by studying the last 10 years of the previous year questions. Okay, anyways, let us look at the question first. With reference to direct air capture, an emerging technology, which of the following statements is or are correct? Okay, it can be used as a way of carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration means absorption, or carbon sequestration is taking the carbon in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and storing it in the form of carbonate rocks. That is one example of what is carbon sequestration. Next, it can be a valuable approach for plastic production and in the food processing. Next, in aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. Select the correct answer using the given code given below. 1 and 2, 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. None of the above statements is correct. Okay. Now, to first explain from an academic angle, let us say that what is direct air capture? Direct air capture is a sub part of CCUS. What is CCUS? CCUS means carbon capture, utilization and storage. What is this CCUS? CCUS is a type of geoengineering technique. Geoengineering technique, and one such CCUS subtype is direct air capture. Okay, so we are going to capture carbon dioxide. So when we capture carbon dioxide directly from the air, then that is what is called as direct air capture. So when they say direct air capture, from the atmosphere we are going to capture. In this, what is direct air? Direct air is from the atmosphere we are going to capture the carbon dioxide and then we are going to store it. And after storing it, we are going to use it. Now, this is what is direct air capture. So, direct air capture can be used as a way of carbon sequestration? Definitely yes. Second, it can be a valuable approach for plastic production and in food processing. Okay. Now see, in plastic production, plastic is made up of, fuels like hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbon has carbon in it. So obviously whatever carbon I have stored, I can use it in plastics also. Next, if you take food processing, if you take carbonated drinks, that carbonated drinks has carbon in it. So I can use this carbon to make carbonated drinks. So see, both are possible. So this is also correct. Okay. Next, in aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. Again, whenever we say fuel, fuel is nothing but hydrocarbon. So they are telling that I can combine this carbon with hydrogen. It is hydrocarbon only. At the end of the day, I have this carbon that is stored. I can use it to club with hydrogen to form a low carbon fuel. This also makes sense. So look at this. You don't even have to know all these things just by having an assessment. If they say direct air capture, and if it is a emerging technology, if it's a direct air capture and if it is an emerging technology, why is it emerging? What are we trying to capture that is emerging in recent times? If it is in recent times, then automatically it should be to fight global warming. To fight global warming, if this is coming, what will it capture? It will obviously capture CO2. So if it captures CO2, the statement should be automatically right. So if it is capturing CO2, what will they do with the captured carbon dioxide? They can automatically use it in plastic. They can use it in food processing. They can also use it to make low carbon fuel. So overall, just by having that wisdom of the subject of environment or wisdom of the climate change and global warming, you can come to the conclusion that all the three statements are correct and the answer is C. This is what I call as subject wisdom. Even though you don't know about this academic part, you should be able to use your wisdom to get the answer. So I hope this is clear. How will you get that academic wisdom or how will you get that subject wisdom is revise the basics again and again and again, and when you take the test, the skills comes by taking a lot of tests, by observing this particular keyword. What is the lines of thought that you will develop will help you to approach and reduce this particular statements and then get to the answer, and that answer should be C. So I hope this was helpful, guys. So this is the 36th question. Alright guys, let us go to the next question. Again, this question I consider it as a difficult question because this is where a little bit of knowledge overpowers your common sense. You have to have some type of knowledge in order to get the answer. Otherwise, you will not be able to deduce it irrespective of how much ever sense you apply. Okay, let us look at this. Regarding peacock tarantula, Guti tarantula, consider the following statements. It is an omnivorous crustacean. Its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas. In its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. Okay. Now, if you look at these three statements, which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 only, 2 and 3 only. Okay. Now, overall, if you look at this, the second statement is very generic. And if you apply the principle of probability, the probability of this statement to go correct is much higher. So, if I take the principle of probability also, I'll be able to eliminate these two, and I will come to this 2 only and 2 and 3 only. Look at this, only with the help of that one generic statement. That is why whenever you're reading the statements, if you know that any statement is 100% wrong, you can use it to eliminate. If you know that any statement is 100% right, you can use it to eliminate. So now I know there is very high chances that this particular thing, see, its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas. Just because you've used only, don't eliminate it, because some forest areas. What is the some forest areas? Some forest areas can be 70% also. Some forest areas can be 30% also. Okay. So there is very high probability that this can be correct. So the second statement is correct. So I've come to this. So automatically the first statement goes wrong. So you don't have to worry about it. Now in its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. This is where I told knowledge will overpower your senses. You have to know something about it. You can, otherwise you're just guessing. Okay. But overall, the answer is D. The answer is this statement also is correct. This statement also is correct. In its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. That is, it is tree dwelling. Okay. It is not an omnivorous. It is carnivorous. It is not a crustacean. It is arachnid. Okay. It's an arachnid. Arachnid means the spiders. Okay. They come in arachnids. But anyways, as I told you, you can use your sense to come up to one level, but sometimes knowledge will overpower the senses and you cannot do anything, and that is okay. Not an issue. Okay. So overall, the answer here is D, 2 and 3. Alright guys, let us go to the next question, and this question is also a little difficult because if you observe the statements, in all the 3 statements there are variables that has the probability to be changed. The examiner can change the variables in the statement, so you cannot know for sure that that particular statement can be right or wrong. You should either know it or not know it. That's how it stands. Let us read out the question first. Consider the following statements. Carbon dioxide emissions in India are less than 0.5 tons carbon dioxide per capita. Second statement. In terms of carbon dioxide emissions from fuel combustion, India ranks second in Asia Pacific region. Third statement, electricity and heat producers are the largest sources of CO2 emissions in India. Okay, which of the statements given above is or are correct? 1 and 3 only, 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3 only. Okay, now as I told you, it is a difficult question because look at every statement. There are a lot of variables that the examiner can change. And if given an opportunity to me as an examiner to change the variables, I will always change it. Now look at this. Carbon dioxide emissions in India are less than. It can be more than also. It can be less than also. That is one. Next. 0.5 ton carbon dioxide metric per capita, or it can be 0.6 also, 0.8 also. So there are very high chances that here the examiner would have manipulated the content that can make the statement go wrong. So that is why it becomes difficult. Look at this next. In terms of carbon dioxide emissions from fuel combustion, India ranks second in Asia Pacific. So they are not just asking India ranks second in Asia Pacific, they are asking more specifically about fuel combustion. Carbon dioxide emissions from fuel combustions. That again makes it a little tricky. Next, electricity and heat producers are the largest sources of CO2 emissions in India. Okay. Again, this with your common sense you can understand that yes, there are very high chances that this statement can be correct. Okay. So even if you assume that the statement is correct, look at this, I can only eliminate this. You still have 3 things to do it. You still have to get to know about these things. That is where it becomes a little difficult. Okay. But overall, let me just tell you the answer. But such questions are something that you should not aspire for to answer also. It is okay, such questions, for you to leave and just go to the next question. Don't worry about targeting such questions. Don't try to read for such questions. It becomes very, very difficult. But overall, this answer is, here it is, the carbon dioxide emissions in India is almost 1.8 tons carbon dioxide metric per capita. Okay, so that is the answer. So 1 is wrong. So if you remove 1, you will automatically get the answer as C. 2 and 3 is correct. But overall, this even I did not know. I have seen the answer and hence I am telling you. So overall, the answer here is 2 and 3. Okay. Alright. So this completes the 38th question. Alright guys, let us go to the next question. Again, this question comes from environment, and this question comes from environment under the broader theme of examples. I always tell my students in environment, whenever you read the static part of environment, make sure that in that static part you keep collecting examples. For example, look at this, woody shrub. You came across this keyword, so you should have around 10 important examples of woody shrubs. Herb with pseudo stem. You should have around 10 important examples of herb with pseudo stem. Herbaceous climber. You should have 10 examples. So, in the last 10 years, whichever important keywords that you have come across, let it be that, let us say they are heliophytes, that is sun-loving plants. You should have 10 examples. Ceophytes, that means shadow-loving plants. You should have 10 examples. So make sure that in your environment, static part, whenever you come across a keyword, ecotone species, 5 examples, flagship species, 5 examples. Okay. For example, let us say that link species, collect the examples. Invasive species, collect the examples. So like that, you need to keep collecting examples, because in environment as a question in your UPSC prelims question paper, such questions will come. Okay. In such questions, there is nothing to prepare. If you have the database of examples, you just have to match the database of examples with this. So here, either you know or you don't know, there is no logic, there is no kind of sense that you can apply. Okay. So here, cassava is a woody shrub is correct. Ginger is an herb with pseudostem. Pseudostem means it appears like a stem, but it is not a stem. That is correct. Malabar spinach is an herbaceous climber. It is correct. Okay, this is also correct. Mint is not an annual shrub. First of all, it is an herb and it is a perennial herb. It is a perennial herb. And the last is papaya. Papaya is not a woody shrub. It is also a herbaceous plant. It is a plant. Okay, it is a plant. Okay. So overall, these two are matched wrong. So these 3 are correct. So the answer is only 3. And look at this, they are not even given the scope to eliminate. So overall, this is what I would term as a difficult question, because you should know exactly what they are. If you don't know, you cannot attempt it. And again, don't try to study for this. Okay, what you should do is, when you're reading your static part of your environment, whenever you come across the keywords in your static part, make sure that you keep collecting examples. Okay, not too much, 5 to 10 examples is fine. Okay, so keep collecting those examples, and if by luck, let us say they are asking different facts and your examples matches with that, then make sure that you use it to get the answer. If not, then skip and go to the next one. So this completes the 39th question. The answer for this is B, only 3. Alright guys, now let us look at this question. This question is very easy because you can apply your common sense to get the answer. That simple it is. That is why whenever you are reading the question, be very calm and just apply your common sense and you will get it. Look at this. Let me read out the question first. With reference to planet Earth, consider the following statements. Rainforests produce more oxygen than that produced by oceans. This is the first statement. The next is marine phytoplankton and photosynthetic bacteria produce about 50% of the world's oxygen. This is the second statement. The third one is well oxygenated surface water contains several folds of higher oxygen than in the atmospheric air. Okay, let us come one by one. Look at this. Rainforests produce more oxygen than that produced by oceans. Okay, yes, rainforests are known as lungs of the earth because they always sequester carbon dioxide and they release oxygen and help us breathe. But if you apply the common sense of oceans and land, if you take the terrestrial surface area, if you take the surface area, of oceans and land, oceans form 71% of the surface area of the earth, land form 29%. If oceans form 71%, automatically they will have a lot of primary producers. They will have a lot of primary producers that can produce more oxygen. So with that we can say that this statement is wrong. Next, let us come to the next statement. If oceans occupy 71% of the surface area and their primary producers are producing more oxygen, who are their primary producers? The primary producers of oceans are nothing but phytoplanktons and cyanobacteria. Phytoplanktons and cyanobacteria. So automatically, look at this, automatically the second statement becomes correct. Okay. The third statement, look at this, well oxygenated surface water contains several folds higher oxygen than that in the atmospheric air. Well oxygenated surface water contains several folds of higher, So can I say well oxygenated surface water, the life on well oxygenated surface water will always be less than the life on terrestrial regions? Yes or no? Why do you think the life on well oxygenated surface water also will always be less than life on terrestrial regions? Is because the dissolved oxygen will always be less than the oxygen that is present in the atmosphere. Okay, again, look at this, common sense this is. So this statement is wrong. So the only statement that is making sense is the marine phytoplanktons and photosynthetic bacteria produce about 50% of the world's oxygen. Okay, so overall here only through the application of your common sense and your wisdom of that subject you will be able to deduce that which of the above statements given above are correct. The correct answer is B, 2 only. I hope you understood this. This is how you should develop your lines of thought to deduce the answer. Okay, so this completes the 40th question. Alright guys, let us move on to the next question, and in this question, just because they are using some technical term, UPSC will use such technical terms in the answer just to push you off or put you off. Don't try to digress, don't try to get intimidated, don't get confused, simplify that particular technical term and then apply that logic to get the answer. That's all you have to do. Now let us look at the question. Consider the following types of vehicles. You have full battery electric vehicles, you have hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, then you have fuel cell electric hybrid vehicles. How many of the above are considered an alternative powertrain vehicles? So, option is only one, only two, all the three, none. Okay. Now, the moment they say alternative powertrain vehicles, don't try to assume, do I know about this, have I read about this, don't get fixated. They are only telling, consider the following types of vehicles. All the three are variants of electric vehicles. And they're asking you how many of the above are considered as alternative powertrain vehicles, vehicles that are powered by electricity. Vehicles that are powered by electricity are powertrain vehicles. Okay. So, alternative powertrain vehicles means what are the different types of electric vehicles. So, if you see full battery electric vehicle, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, fuel cell electric hybrid vehicles, all the three are different types of electric vehicles themselves. So, don't get intimidated by this word, just simplify it to electric vehicles. And if you can simplify it to electric vehicles, you know that all the three types comes under electric vehicles. It can be an alternative to electric vehicles. So, the answer here is C. All the three can be the types of vehicles that can be an alternative to powertrain vehicles. Okay. So, I hope you understood this. So, this is how the normal electric vehicles are lithium ion battery vehicles. So, an alternative to those electric vehicles are these three. That is all the answer is. If you can simplify like that, you will always get the answer. Okay. So, the answer to this question is C. All the options are correct. Now, if you take science and technology as a topic in which the questions will come, the questions in science and technology are either too easy or it is too difficult. But this one question shows you that how the questions are so easy, and it is here that you should never go wrong. Don't try to overanalyze here. Try to think like a common man and you'll get the answer. Now look at this. Let me read out the question. With reference to unmanned aerial vehicles, consider the following statements. Okay. All types of UAVs can do vertical landing. All types of UAVs can do automated hovering. All types of UAVs can use battery only as a source of power supply. Okay. All types of UAVs can use battery only as a source of power supply. How many of the statements are above are correct? Only one, only two, all the three, none. Look at this. All types of UAVs can do vertical landing. Not necessarily. There will be something that can do horizontal landing also. So that statement is again wrong. That is why. Ask why. All types of UAVs can do vertical landing. You should ask why should all types do only vertical landing? Why not horizontal landing? Okay. So this statement becomes wrong. All types of UAVs can do automated hovering. How or why is it necessary that everyone will do automated hovering? There will be some low or less advanced. There will be some less advanced UAVs. So these less advanced UAVs may not do automated hovering. Okay. The next is all types of UAVs can use battery only. Why? They can also use solar powered. They can be solar powered or they can be fuel powered. They can be either ways. Okay. So whenever such questions are there, usually the answer will always be all types of UAVs can do vertical landing is wrong. All types of UAVs can do automated hovering is wrong. All types of UAVs can use battery only is also wrong. So the answer here, how many of the above statements given are above are correct? The answer is none. So these are questions where it purely focuses on your senses, that is your common sense. If you can apply your common sense, you will get the answer. The answer here is D, and it is such questions where you should never go wrong. This comes under the category of very easy questions. Very easy questions are where you cannot even come and tell me that I overanalyzed or I have done some mistake. So I hope you got this. The answer here is D. So this completes 42nd question. Alright guys, now let us move on to the next question, and the question is, in the context of electric vehicle batteries, consider the following elements. You have cobalt, you have graphite, you have lithium, you have nickel. How many of the above usually make up the battery cathodes? Only one, only two, only three, all the four. Now, I can understand that this question became a little too technical. You should understand what exactly is anode and what exactly is cathode. Okay. Anode is where oxidation takes place. Cathode is where reduction takes place. That is, oxidation means losing of electrons and reduction is gaining of electrons. Okay, so in a battery, anode will always be negative. In the cathode, the cathode in the battery will always be positive. Okay, so this is the basics. Now, in general, if you take any battery, mostly the anode that they use in a battery will not always be, but mostly they use graphite. Because in lithium ion batteries especially, graphite plays a very important role in holding those lithium ions. That's why graphite is most popularly used as an anode in the lithium ion batteries. So with that conclusion we can come that graphite is not definitely a cathode, but all the other, the cobalt, lithium, nickel, all this together, they can be used as cathodes. The answer here is only 3. Okay, which of the above usually make up battery cathodes? Only 3. Okay, again, I understand that this question is a little technical. Sometimes the questions become technical. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go ahead and start preparing too much on that. It is okay if you let go of the technical questions. Understand that to clear prelims, you just have to get the easy and moderate questions right. You don't have to worry about the advanced questions, and that is the essence of doing this entire series. So I hope you understood this. So this completes the 43rd question. The answer here is only 3. Graphite mainly is used as anode. The cobalt, lithium and nickel are used as cathodes. Okay, so this is only 3. Alright, now look at this question. Again, UPSC is trying to play with your mind. Don't over analyze, think like a common man and you will get the answer. Don't try to get too technical in it. Okay, look at this. Let me read out the question first. Consider the following: cigarette butts, eyeglass lenses, car tires. How many of the above contain plastic? Okay, only 1, only 2, all the 3, none. Now if you take plastic, look at this, cigarette butts. You cannot say that they do not contain plastics. Eyeglass lenses, okay, eyeglass lenses will obviously contain some form of plastic. Car tires will also have some type of plastic. So the answer here is how many of them contain plastic? The answer is C. Okay, 2 things. 1, don't mark it as D because by default all the above means it will be in D. Be very, very careful. They are putting it in C. So the option here is C. The second is they would have put this question in a way where you would have come across so many questions that are complicated that when you come to this question, automatically, though the question is very simple, because your mind was used to seeing so many complicated questions, now even the simple question is appearing complicated. That is why one very important principle that you should write down is when you finish a question and go to the next question, forget it and approach the next question with complete neutrality, with complete clean slate. Don't have any type of, don't bring that bias from the previous question to the next question. You should completely approach the next question with a completely clean slate. Otherwise, the previous question, if it was complicated, you come here and you will start over-analyzing on this question and there are high probability that you can go wrong here. Okay, so be very, very careful. However, these are very, very easy questions where you cannot go wrong. Just by applying common sense, you can get the answer. The option here is C. All the 3 are correct. All the 3 contain plastics. Alright guys, let us look at this question. Again, this question has become a little too technical, but it is okay. Let us see how we can manage it. Consider the following substances. You have ethanol, you have nitroglycerin, and you have urea. Coal gasification technology can be used in the production of how many of them? Okay. Now again, you can come to a conclusion that you can produce urea with the coal gasification. Coal gasification produces what you call as syngas. It produces what you call as syngas. Syngas is nothing but, it is a mix of carbon monoxide, methane and carbon dioxide. Okay. So this is what is syngas. So mainly this syngas can be used in order to produce urea. Okay. At the end of the day, what is urea? CHN2O. Overall, this is what is urea. So C and H and O is there already. We have to just infuse N. Okay. So automatically you can produce urea. Then ethanol. Ethanol is nothing also, it is also a compound of C and H and O. So if it is, it's also a compound of C and H and O, we can, if from syngas you can produce ethanol also. But this is where the technicality comes. Nitroglycerin. This is a little technical. And this is where you should at least know what are the elements that form nitroglycerin. If you don't know, it becomes a little difficult, and that's why I told this question relatively is a little difficult because there is some technicality involved. But overall, the answer is this cannot be formed. So the 45th, consider the following substances. Through coal gasification technology, we get syngas. From the syngas, we can produce urea and ethanol. See now, ethanol mainly is produced from sugar molasses. Okay, this is the biomass that is used in order to produce ethanol. Okay, they don't use syngas usually, but theoretically they can use syngas in order to produce ethanol also. It is possible. So they are telling coal gasification technology can be used in the production of how many of them? So theoretically the 2 are possible. So the answer here is only 2. Okay, the nitroglycerin is not possible, and that requires some level of technicality, and it is okay if you don't know also. But the answer here is, for the 45th question, the answer is B. Alright guys, now let us look at the next one. Such questions will come directly from the current affairs. If you have read it, you can answer it. But if you have not read it, don't be insecure. It is fine. The making or breaking of you clearing prelims is not done on such questions which come directly from the current affairs. You read a magazine. Everyone will read one magazine. You also read a magazine. If the questions come from that, you answer. Everyone will answer. If the question does not come from that, you also don't answer. Everyone will not answer. So it really does not create a differential. So don't worry about it. Overall, let us just complete it for the sake of completion. Look at this. What is the common characteristic of the chemical substances generally known as Cl20, HMX and LLM105, which are sometimes talked about in the media? Look at this. These are alternatives to hydrofluorocarbon refrigerants. These are explosives in the military weapons. These are high energy fuels for cruise missiles. These are fuels for robust propulsion. Okay. So overall, look at this. The answer, I'll just tell you the answer directly. These are explosives used in military weapons. Okay. It was in use, so they have just taken those terms and they have asked. There is no type of deductions or any clues given here. So these are some things where you know or you don't know. It is okay. It happens like that. It is completely fine. But the answer for 46th one is these are explosives in military weapons. The Cl20, HMX and LLM105 are explosives in military weapons. Okay. So this completes this question. Okay guys, now let us look at this question. Understand that this question is also coming from current affairs, but this we expect you to answer because there will be some current affairs issues that are very, very important and very, very significant that we intend you to know. If you are a sincere and serious aspirant, these are some things that you should know. Okay, look at this. Let me first read out the question. Consider the following statements. It is expected that Majorana 1 chip will enable quantum computing. So the question is on Majorana 1 chip. Majorana 1 chip has been introduced by Amazon Web Services. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Look at this. Which of the statements given above are correct? You have 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3 only. Okay. Now, even though you don't know much about Majorana chip, you should know that when you're reading current affairs, it was in current affairs in all the books. So you cannot tell that it was not there in the book that I studied. It was very, very significant. Now, if you have studied just Majorana chip was introduced by not Amazon Web Services, but was introduced by Microsoft. It was introduced by Microsoft. So you know that the second statement is wrong. So if the second statement becomes wrong, look at this goes and this goes, you can directly get the answer. So it really doesn't matter whether you have good depth in machine learning or you have good depth in quantum computing. You should understand that just by having that common sense of reading that significant issue, you'll be able to deduce the answer. But understand, why am I telling this Majorana chip? Why am I telling that this Majorana chip was very significant is because, let me go back. Majorana chip was very significant is because when you come to quantum computing, in quantum computing, there is something called quantum decoherence. Okay. Now this quantum decoherence will disturb the quantum states. When it disturbs the quantum states, whatever process the qubits are taking up, that process gets disturbed. Okay. So this quantum decoherence creates a lot of errors. Now the main job of the chip is to reduce these errors, and Majorana chip is one such that has reduced these errors by a much greater extent. That is, these chips have very less quantum decoherence. When they have very less quantum decoherence, these Majorana chips are moving towards stability. Okay, that is why Majorana chip has been very, very significant, because then our computing power exponentially increases. And one of the challenges of our quantum computing is the decoherence that introduces some type of disturbances that spoils any type of calculations. But if the chip is stable, if it reduces the decoherence, then our computing power of the quantum computers can be used to its fullest potential. That is why this particular Majorana 1 chip was very, very important. But irrespective of you knowing that or not, just by knowing the news, you'll be able to get the answer. And the answer for the 47th question is C. Alright guys, the next question is again biology, and biotechnology is very, very important. Biology will give you the difference between what is antibodies and what is antigen. Biotechnology will help you to understand what is monoclonal antibodies and what is polyclonal antibodies. Let us read out the question first. With reference to monoclonal antibodies, often mentioned in the news, consider the following statements. They are man-made proteins. They stimulate immunological functions due to their ability to bind to specific antigens. They are used in treating viral infections like that of Nipah virus. Which of the following statements given above are correct? 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, and 1, 2 and 3. Alright, now look at this. Biology, I told you, you should know what is antibodies and you should know what is antigens. Antigens are nothing but foreign objects, and to fight these foreign objects, our body produces antibodies that will fight this foreign object. This is how our immunity works. Okay. Now, sometimes our immunity is very weak that we have to introduce the antibodies from outside to inside. That man-made antibodies can be monoclonal and polyclonal. See, clonal. That means that we are doing it. We are cloning the antibodies and then we are introducing it into the body. So, antibodies that are made by man can be divided into monoclonal and polyclonal. Now, why is this monoclonal or polyclonal is? Now look, the job of this antibody is to target the foreign object. Monoclonal will target one specific antigen, whereas polyclonal can target many antigens. That is the only difference between monoclonal and polyclonal. This is the understanding that you should have from biology as well as biotech. This is purely basics. Okay. Now come to this and see. Monoclonal antibodies mentioned in the news, consider the following statements. They are man-made proteins. This is correct. They simulate immunological function due to their ability to bind to specific antigens. Look at this. This is also correct. They are used in the treating of viral infections like that of Nipah virus. 100% they can be used. Okay. So the answer here is, 1, 2 and 3. Now look at this. In this particular question, all the above is given in option D. Some questions they are giving all the above in option C, some questions they are giving in D. So please be sure or make sure when you are marking it. Don't assume, don't be presumptuous. The moment you are seeing this 3, don't mark D there in the OMR. Please don't do that. First look at it, where is all the above and then mark it. Okay. However, the answer for the 48th question is, answer is D. Alright guys, let us go to this question of science and technology. Again, I told you science and technology either is too difficult or too easy. This falls under the category of too easy. But just make sure that you are having a calm mind when you are reading the question. If you are coming from a very complicated question into this question, then there are very high probability that you will apply the same complication to this question and overanalyze. So don't do that. Apply apply the logic with complete calmness and you will get the answer. Now look at this. Consider the following statements. No virus can survive in the ocean waters. How can it be true? No virus can survive. How can we say that such blanket statement? Look at this next. No virus can infect bacteria. How can that be true? No virus can change the cellular transcriptional activity in the host cells. Okay. Understand that viruses are active only in the host cell, and how can they not change the cellular transcriptions? How many of the statements given above are correct? Only 1, only 2, all the 3 and none. Look at this. If you take these 3 statements, all are very extreme statements. Okay. Only with this logic of all are very extreme statements, we can apply that. Okay. Which of the above statements given are correct? None of them are correct, because no virus can survive in the ocean waters. Viruses are there in the ocean waters. No virus can infect viruses can infect the bacteria. In fact, that actually there is a technology to use the virus to infect the bacteria. Okay. Next, no virus can change the cellular transcriptional activity in the host cells. It can definitely change the cellular transcriptional activity. Okay. So that by changing the transcriptional activity itself, it controls the host. That is actually the opposite. Okay. So overall, if you take these 3 statements, none of the statement is correct. So the answer is none. Again, this is where you have to just stay calm and just apply that why. Why is no virus found in the ocean? Why is no virus, infecting bacteria? Like that, if you just answer why, you will get the answer very, very easily. Again, very easy question. You have no scope to go wrong here. Okay, this completes the 49th question. Alright guys, very interesting question. Let us see if we can get the answer by using our lines of thought by first reading the question properly. So let us read out the question. Consider the following statements. Statement 1 is activated carbon is a good and an attractive tool to remove pollutants from effluent streams and to remediate contaminants from various industries. Okay, so this is statement 1. Statement 2 is activated carbon exhibits a large surface area and a strong potential for absorbing heavy metals. Statement 3. Activated carbon can be easily synthesized from environmental waste with high carbon content. Okay. Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above statements? Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. Both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. Only one of the statements 2 or statement 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. Neither statement 2 nor statement 3 is correct. Okay. Now look at this. As we have discussed many times, whenever they give 3 statements and whenever they give such type of options, we know by default that statement 1 is correct. So even if you have not heard about activated carbon, UPSC has itself given you the clue and the definition what exactly is activated carbon. Now look at this. Activated carbon is a good and an attractive tool to remove pollutants from effluent streams and to remediate contaminants from various industries. Okay, so that is what is true. Now taking this clue, see if this too makes sense. Look at this. First, activated carbon exhibits a large surface area and a strong potential for absorbing heavy metals. Absorbing heavy metals is one of the property. Because of this property, don't you think they can use this property to remove pollutants, especially from various industries. So because they can use that as a property to remove the pollutants from various industries, this makes sense. One, the statement is true, and this is explaining the statement 1. Okay, next, activated carbon can be easily synthesized from environmental wastes with high carbon content. Now, the name itself shows activated carbon. So in the environment, if I find rich carbon content, I can definitely use that carbon content to create activated carbon. The name itself has carbon. If there's something that is rich in carbon, I can use it to make activated carbon. That is common sense. So if this statement is true, activated carbon can be easily synthesized. If that is true, don't you think it becomes an attractive tool? Look at this. It becomes an attractive tool. Why it becomes an attractive tool? Because it is easily synthesized in the environment. So statement 3 is also correct, and statement 3 is also explaining statement 1. So this is how you have to correlate these two statements to statement 1 before coming to this side. I have kept on telling you, don't worry about this. Just take the clue that statement 1 is always correct, statement 2 and 3, try to see if you can correlate it. So the answer for this, both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. The answer here is A. Okay, so I hope you understood how to use your lines of thought to deduce the answer, even though you might have not studied about activated carbon. And this is what is skills that you will develop by taking or giving a lot of mock tests. I hope it was helpful, guys. Alright guys, so this completes the Decode Prelims episode 2, and after seeing this episode, I hope that you understood that it takes not only knowledge but also skill sets in order to deduce the answers. Remember that knowledge can only get you up to 70 marks. To get that extra 20 to 30 marks, you have to use your skill sets, and if you have watched our episodes, you definitely would have equipped yourself with whatever skill sets that are required in order to get through that cutoff marks. I hope it helped you in your preparation for your UPSC Prelims, guys. If you have liked this video, please make sure that you share this video with as many people as possible, because only then we can do such quality videos on a consistent basis. Thank you so much for all the love and support. I'm going to see you again. Bye.